This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com with a daily combat sports news update for you. And I'm going to start it off with a world entertainment storytelling or world storytelling entertainment update, rather. They did a 0.53 rating for Raw yesterday, which was Bruce Pritchard's first Raw that he's done as head of creative for Raw since WWE fired Paul Heyman last week, although Heyman is still remaining on as Brock Lesnar's manager. WWE development talent that was in the crowd as recently as June 9th has tested positive for COVID-19. We all know that WWE, the wrestlers in the crowd that don't wear masks, I guess they do practice social distancing, but I guess this development wrestler that was in the crowd for the tapings last week put enough of the shock into WWE that they canceled the tapings that were supposed to take place on Tuesday. And now, for the first time, all of the talent is being tested for COVID-19, which is funny because up to this point, they were just doing the temperature checks, which is not nearly the same as the COVID-19 testing. So I guess this is the first time a WWE actual wrestler has been confirmed of having COVID-19, or really, it's the first time I've heard of an American or Canadian wrestler being out public of having COVID-19. There's been plenty in Mexico that have had it, but not in America or Canada that have actually admitted it, to my knowledge. Apparently, nobody in the audience last night was wearing masks. They were allowing certain friends of wrestlers in the crowd last night and family members for the first time to watch Raw, or it wasn't live, watch the actual taping of it. They were encouraged not to wear masks, and to my knowledge, none of them wore masks. As far as my favorite wrestler, Drew Mackentire, once again, hence the name World Storytelling Entertainment, he did an interview with Sports Illustrated where he stated he was having discussions with the WWE writers about Cesaro. He said, quote, "Cesaro and I were saying that we've never had a match together, but the writers don't believe in us. Nowhere, not even the indies." So Cesaro and Mackentire have gone to the writers and say, please let us come up with an idea. Let's make this match happen. He also went on to say that Sheamus was the best man at his wedding, and he'd really like to have a feud with Sheamus. Oh boy, I'd really love to see a feud between you and the guy that was the best man at your wedding. And here's a bullshit lie from Mackentire. He says that the wrestling world universally praised him as WWE champion, but he says that wasn't the case for his buddy Jinder Mahal, and he'd like to wrestle Jinder Mahal. Well, I am part of the wrestling media. I operate the biggest wrestling YouTube channel based in Canada, and I do not praise that you're a good champion for shit like this. You don't know how to promote. Also, you're the lowest drawing WWE champion of all time, speaking from both ratings and attendance. So if you want to think you're universally praised, go ahead. I think you suck. I actually think Jinder Mahal was a better champion than you. First of all, he drew better than you. Ratings were better. when Mahal was champion. And I don't remember. Maybe it seems someone even commented on it. It seems like maybe WWE is actually encouraging their entertainers to break kayfabe to the media now, because it seems like in almost every interview we see with Sports Illustrated, CBS Sports, any media outlet, it seems like they're always talking about this storytelling bullshit. So maybe it's been mandated by the WWE that they want them to talk about writers and creative and all the behind the scenes stuff. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's why I don't remember Jinder Mahal ever saying that when he was champion. But I don't recall Jinder Mahal saying that, and I thought he was a good heel. In other news, there is a bunch of controversy related to several lawsuits going on right now related to WWE shareholders that are alleging that WWE has made misleading statements regarding their business dealings with Saudi Arabia, everyone's favorite country, where you can still be chemically castrated for being gay. You can still be murdered if you're a female over the stupidest stuff. One of the reasons why WWE is losing popularity is from their associations and dealings with places like Saudi Arabia that are really behind the times in the world as far as human rights go. Not the first place on my vacation list. But basically, the news related to this is there has been a WWE former wrestler that I supposedly has gone on record in relation to this lawsuit, saying that not the last time WWE went to Saudi Arabia, but the time prior. I'm sure you all remember wrestlers were delayed there for an extended period of time, other than the big stars that had their private jets that were able to get out right away, along with Vince McMahon. But apparently one of these former employees that performed for WWE between the years 2012 to 2020 was told that the flights had been delayed by the stewardess because apparently someone didn't want them to leave the country. There was apparently guards in black militia attire staring at the wrestlers on board the plane from the outside. Apparently, the senior director of talent relations, Mark Carano, told this wrestler that the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and Vince McMahon had gotten into an argument over payments regarding the event in Saudi Arabia. And as a result, Vince McMahon cut a portion of the live feed for this crown jewel event. And this got the crown prince of Saudi Arabia upset. Other WWE personnel tried to book their own flights, leaving from a different airport to no success. Why there was no other planes to get the wrestlers out of Saudi Arabia made no sense. Many wrestlers were scared of speaking up because of the limited jobs in the industry and fear of losing their jobs. Some of the wrestlers stated they would never go back to Saudi Arabia after being held like that. The less prominent wrestlers were saying basically they can't say anything or they'll lose their jobs. Joe Henning and Brody Lee were two of the wrestlers that spoke out about the plane being held in Saudi Arabia. Joe Henning has since been released, and Brody Lee is also no longer with the company. Whatever the financial dispute was between WWE and Saudi Arabia was eventually settled because, for one thing, WWE wanted it settled because they're making millions and millions and millions of dollars every time they go to Saudi Arabia. And on the other hand, Saudi Arabia doesn't want problems because they're trying to whitewash their image. Part of this whole WWE thing is to whitewash their negative image. Victor Murphy tipped me $1.99 and gave me the thumbs up. Thank you, Victor Murphy. I know you're a regular watcher. The 7'3" masked giant who interfered in the Street Profits versus Viking Raiders skit that featured ninjas, which I believe was copied from the Great North Wrestling cinematic match we released about 3 weeks ago. Anyways, his name is, he's from Lagos, Nigeria. He's a WWE developmental wrestler, and his name is Jordan Omo Bakahiman or something like that. So I did a review of that Viking Raiders Street Profits skit. And yes, WWE told a story in that skit. And you know what? Another point I forgot to mention about that horrible skit between the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits is there is a scene in that skit where the Viking Raiders get speared through a glass window. Okay, and they're standing up, and they're actually friends right after teaming up fighting the ninjas, okay? Remember the Shawn Michaels versus Marty Jannetty feud that was completely based off of someone going through glass and the heat of that? But now someone being smashed through glass is just a comedy spot in a comedy match. That's how far wrestling is falling. Chris Monte tipped me $10, says, keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, as I said in my review of that Viking Raiders Street Profits match, it was terrible, unrealistic, magic being used in it, a giant squid, and the funniest part is they just end it with a giant squid appearing, and then it fades to black, and then they're back the next night on Raw. No explanation to my knowledge. So it's like they don't want us to take this crap seriously, this entertainment serious. So why should we? Why should anyone bother watching it if you're just doing stupid stuff like this that makes absolutely no sense? On to UFC, which, by the way, people are still watching and still talking about it. And if you talk to someone on the street about UFC, unlike wrestling, they're not going to lose all respect for you. Dana White has stated, according to MMA Fighting, that as far as the lockdown, the whole thing is state by state, country by country, as far as letting crowds back in buildings. He said that there's a couple of states now that are looking to open up to have fans in the buildings for MMA events, and he's in talks with them, but he says he's not going to do a 50% audience. He has no interest in that. He'd rather just do the tapings at the UFC headquarters with no audience than do a show in front of 50% audience. So he's just going to wait until a state opens up where he can have a full audience. So that's the main news today. Patrick J says giant squid ! It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Hurricane Maverick Alexander. Hey, what's going on, Devon? Hope you're well. Well, you can all see I just finished another glass of tomato juice. I should really look in the mirror before I do these updates. I actually had a personal fighting trainer over here training me in my basement dungeon earlier, and I'm going to go for my run as soon as I'm done with your questions. MRRED said Raw is doing terrible in the ratings, and it's been like that for a while. Well, them doing terrible has been for a long while, actually, long before the lockdown. Unlike some people want to blame it all on the lockdown, the Hannibal TV's viewership was the highest it's ever been during the main part of the lockdown. And for everyone that says well, you don't have wrestling matches, so you have an excuse. You just do interviews and stuff. No, actually, if you look at some of the highest hit videos on this channel, they're Great North wrestling matches, and our wrestling matches do get views on this channel. I had the same opportunities of getting views as Ring of Honor, MLW, NWA, all the companies, but my viewership went up. So for the people that are saying the lockdown is a reason, is an excuse why ratings should be down, no, they should come up with better content.